Hello and welcome back to another LeetCode.js video. In this video, we will be solving LeetCode number 200, number of islands, and you are given a grid of ones and zeros, and we want to form and return the number of islands. And an island is just a connected subgrid of ones, and zeros are water. So in this example, we have one island because they're all connected in this one subgrid here. You can see of ones, and in example 2, we have 3 because we have this subgrid and this one here and then this one here. So there's 3 totally. So the method that I'm going to be using is pretty straightforward. Depth first search, and starting with what we want to return, as always, will be the count of islands. And how we're going to do this using depth first search is to first create a grid, an m by n grid. So we're given this input, this 2D array. So let m be the grid, the length, so the amount of rows, and let n be grid 0 at 0 dot length. Okay, so m by n is the rows times the columns. So we're gonna first create this visited grid, and this visited grid is going to be the same shape as the grid. Okay, but instead of storing zeros and ones, we're going to first instantiate all false. All false because none of the grid elements are visited in initialization, but we're going to be looping through each one in the following code snippet. Okay, but that's why we want to set up a visited array. So let visited equal new array of size m, and then for I less than m, we're going to populate this array with a new array of size n that we're going to fill with zeros. And it's critical that we have this for loop to populate the array. We can't just do something like dot fill new array n dot fill 0. I actually had chat GPT help me fix this earlier because I just forgot about passing array references, and you need to populate it with a separate for loop like this. So this will have the shape that we want, and we want to fill it with Boolean false. Okay, so next we want to loop over each block in the grid. Okay, and we're going to do this by just doing a double for loop, and the first for loop will iterate over m. Okay, so this is where we're going to use this visited array, and the idea is that if we're traversing each element in the grid, if we come across a 1, then that is an island, right? That's the base case. Just a single 1 is an island. But if we loop over again, the second one here should not be double counted twice because it's part of the same island. So that's where the visited array is going to come in handy. Okay, but we're just going to check here that if grid at ij is equal to 1 and it has not been visited, ij, and it has not been visited, then we want to increase the count. Okay, now we want to make a separate function here, and let me call this DFS for depth first search, and this is the algorithm that's going to take as parameters I and j. And what DFS will do is recursively go into the point ij and then expand outwards, right, up, left, and down, and call DFS recursively, and in the process setting each one to visited equal true. So in our visited array that we have here, of all Boolean false, we're going to turn it to trues, 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 and in the next iteration from index 0 to 1, it will not be double counted because we have this condition here that it has not been visited, so count will not be double counted. Okay, so we can do this by making the header, which will take in I and j, and it won't return anything, but what this function will do, as I said, we'll just set visited I at j is equal to true, and this will only happen in the condition that so we're given that at this point it is a 1, so we don't need to double check that, but we need to check that I and j are within bounds. And before I do this if statement, let me just go ahead and do the recursive steps, which will make the conditions a little bit more clear. So DFS, we want to call DFS again at I minus 1, which is the left point, or the left side. Yeah, the left side. And then we want to call DFS on the right side, fixing the y, which is j. And then we want to call DFS on the top side and then DFS on the bottom side. So this way it will recursively set these to 1 as long as, or to true as long as they are 1. Okay, so you see that if I was equal to 0, then it will be array out of bounds. So we want to make sure that I is greater than 0. And to do this, we actually want to do the reverse. So if I is less than 0, then we want to return, just break out of this recursion. Or if I is greater than or equal to m, then that's also out of bounds, and that might happen at I plus 1, so we have to keep track of that. And then j also less than 0, we want to break out, and then j must be, j is greater than equal to n, then we also want to breakout. Okay, so there is one more condition here, which is so we're gonna set visited I of j equal true, and we checked that if grid ij equals 1 and it's not visited in this line 15 for DFS ij, but when we call the recursive step, this may not be true. So we do actually have to call or check for these conditions again. So if grid of I of j is equal to 0, then we also want to return. We don't need to visit it. And also, if visited ij is equal to true, then we also want to return. Okay, so this should return a count of the number of islands. We can run it. So cannot read properties of undefined, so assume there is some array out of bounds issue. Okay, grid ij. So there might be something wrong with my visited instantiation here, and I must have forgotten how to do this. I don't think that will change anything, but let's see here for these base cases. Yeah, it's still reading undefined. So and it has not been visited yet, so equal to false. Okay. N is equal to grid at 0 dot length count plus plus. Let's see if we can remove this and it will throw the same error. Yeah, so there's something wrong with the way I set up this visited array. That is because well, let's console.log visited to see if we're actually even getting anything back. We should be 4 empty items. What? Oh, we might not want to be pushing x because we want to be setting visited I equal to x. So yeah, that's kind of the tricky part about it. Okay, so yeah, this matrix initialization is what tricked me up the first time, and still we have some problems doing it, but it should work now, as long as we put in that visited at ij is equal to false. So yeah. And there we go. That is num islands, and the runtime is m by n, and the space complexity is also m by n, because we create a separate array of m rows and n columns. Runtime because we loop by m, and then recursion here doesn't take any exponential time. So yeah, space time complexity both m by n. Thanks for watching.